Have you ever looked at someone who seems to thrive under pressure and just wondered, how do they do it? What's the secret sauce that separates those who crumble from those who conquer? Well, I can tell you it's not luck, and it's definitely not something you're born with. It is a skill. And today, we're going to break down the exact blueprint for building that unbreakable mental toughness. So, let's dive right in.
Look, we all hit those moments that feel totally impossible. A huge setback at work, a personal challenge that knocks you off your feet, or just that feeling of being completely overwhelmed. And in those moments, you've got a choice. Do you let it all break you down? Or do you find a way to break through to the other side, even stronger than you were before? That difference, it all comes down to mental toughness.
So, what is mental toughness really? Think of it like a psychological immune system. It's not about being cold or emotionless, not at all. It's about having this deep inner strength that lets you navigate all the tough stuff life throws at you, actually learn from it, and bounce back faster and more resilient every single time. So, how do we actually build this? We're going to walk through 4 crucial pillars. First, we'll talk about how to reframe your reality. Then, how to master your energy. Third, we'll get into confronting your fears. And finally, we'll cover what it means to take radical ownership. Okay, first up, reframing your reality. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with your mindset. Before you can change your actions, you've got to change the lens through which you see the world. This is the absolute foundation for all mental strength. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the fragile view. It's that victim mindset, right? Life is so unfair, why me? But the tough view, it sees the exact same hardship as a test. The question completely changes from, why is this happening to me, to, what is this trying to teach me? That one little shift moves you from being a passive victim to an active student in your own life. And this idea that life is a series of trials, it's not some new self-help trend. It's ancient wisdom. The core concept here is that both good fortune and bad fortune are tests of our character. When you really get that, you stop seeing challenges as these horrible surprises to get angry about. Instead, you see them as an expected and, honestly, an essential part of being human. So, once you've started to reframe your reality, the very next step is to direct your energy, because where you choose to put your focus, well, that's going to determine the path you walk. This story is so powerful. Think about it. The exact same starting point, the same difficult environment, but 2 totally different outcomes. One brother focused on the negative pattern and, well, he repeated it. The other brother focused on that same negative pattern as the ultimate reason not to repeat it. The key takeaway here is that it wasn't their external situation that decided their fate. It was their internal focus. 40%. Remember this number. Researchers call this the 40% rule. It's the amount of gas you still have left in the tank when your mind is screaming at you that you're done, that you have to quit. So that feeling of being completely empty, it turns out you're actually only at about 60% of your real potential. See, the problem is we usually stop when we feel tired, not when we're actually finished. Muhammad Ali used to say he didn't start counting his sit-ups until they started to hurt, because that's when it really counted. The solution here is so practical. When your mind tells you you're done, just challenge it. Push yourself for 10, maybe 15 more minutes. That tiny little window, that's where all the growth happens. That's where you prove to yourself you've got more in reserve. All right, we've adjusted our mindset. We've learned to direct our focus. Now it is time to face the very things that are holding us back. Because real, meaningful growth never happens in your comfort zone. It happens when you turn around and directly confront your obstacles. Our natural instinct is to run away from difficult things. But mentally tough people, they understand a fundamental truth. Hardship is basically the gym for your character, right? Just like you need to lift heavy weights to build physical muscle, you need to overcome real challenges to build new skills and resilience. So the solution is to stop trying to avoid hardship and start seeing it for what it truly is, an opportunity. Now, 2 of the biggest, baddest fears that hold us back are the fear of failure and the fear of change. These 2 can paralyze us and keep us from taking the very actions that lead to growth. So let's tackle them one by one. We seriously need to update our mental software when it comes to failure. I mean, look at the most innovative companies on the planet. SpaceX doesn't see a rocket blowing up as a disaster. They see it as valuable data. Google has a whole graveyard of failed projects that literally paved the way for their biggest wins. The solution is to reframe failure not as the opposite of success, but as a critical part of the process. It's a feature, not a bug.
The other giant fear is change. But look, resisting change is like trying to stop the ocean's tide with a bucket. It's completely pointless and it's exhausting. The mentally tough approach isn't to fight it, but to accept that it's inevitable. Because when you know change is coming, you can prepare for it, you can adapt to it, and you can even look for the opportunities inside of it. You go from being a victim of circumstance to being the architect of your own response.
And that brings us to our final and maybe the most important pillar of them all. You can have the right mindset, the right focus, and all the courage in the world, but it all gets tied together through radical ownership. This is the unwavering belief that you are 100% responsible for your life, and crucially, for your reactions to it.
We all have one. You know, that little voice in your head that's super quick to blame the traffic, your boss, the economy, your childhood, anything and everything for why we aren't where we want to be. The very first step to radical ownership is to just shut that machine off.
Here's the thing about excuses. Even when they're totally valid, they make you weak because they transfer your power to someone or something else. The mentally tough person takes responsibility, period. Admitting you made a mistake isn't a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate sign of strength because it puts the power to change and improve right back where it belongs, in your hands. Now, the second piece of ownership is owning your own values. It is shocking how much mental energy we waste worrying about what other people think of us. This is a battle you are never, ever going to win. When you tie your self-worth to what other people think, you become fragile. You'll change your opinions, your goals, even who you are, just to fit in. So the solution is this. Anchor yourself to your own core principles. Know what you stand for. When you start operating from that internal compass, the need for everyone else's approval just kind of fades away, and you develop this deep, unshakable confidence. So we've covered a lot of ground, right? Reframing reality as a test, mastering your focus, confronting your fears, and taking radical ownership. But here's the deal. Knowledge is only useful when you actually apply it. So I'm going to leave you with this question. What is one challenge, one hardship you're facing right now, today? How can you reframe it, not as a roadblock, but as your own personal training ground? Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Because answering that question, that is the very first step to building your own unbreakable mental toughness.